Hello and welcome back to the ARK of E podcast. My name is Noah, and I am joined once again by one of our very favorite special returning guest, Mr. Evan Twohig. Joins us once again on the ARK of E podcast. And
Anything?
this is kind of a follow up to our prior 2x2 that you joined us on, where we chatted about High and Low, and we talked about Lone Wolf and Cub, and we did that because Shogun and Tokyo Vice season 2 were in full swing. Both of those shows are now over, so of course we had to have Evan back to chat about it. And of course, I think Gavin's up to date on maybe at least one of these shows, but he's on that extended paternity leave, and he'll be here whenever he feels like it. But for now, welcome back, Mr. Evan Twohig. Hello.
Hey, thanks, man. Appreciate you having me back. I was thinking earlier today that I've never been so into, was it honor and seppuku in terms of all of the media that I've been consuming over like the past 2 months at least, I think.
Dude, I have been on I'm kind of always on an extended Japan kick, but particularly like, yeah, between Tokyo Vice, uh, Shogun, of course, which we're here to talk about, and then I've been watching Sandland, which is I don't want to fuck up his name. I think it's Toriyama, the guy who created Dragon Ball Z,
Oh yeah,
who he actually died earlier this year.
recently, yeah, died this year,
Yeah,
right?
but Sandland is kind of one of his later projects, and it was just
Anime, of
recently
course, yeah.
adapted. So the manga was just recently adapted, and it's been coming out on Hulu. Uh, Super fun, dude. It's basically like a future dystopia, like Mad Max sort of world, but then mixed with like
And a more
the
adult sit through than Dragon Ball Z, I assume,
I
or
well, I would say still kid friendly. I would equate it more to like the original Dragon Ball, like pre-Dragon Ball Z. But anyways, it's a blast. I just got to kind of the midway point of that, and then the big finale airs on May 1st. So I'm kind of catching up for that. So yeah, watching that as well. And then there was another one here in the mix, show-wise. But it just occurred to me where I was like literally everything I'm watching outside of my Mad Men rewatch and my little mini when I took a break to binge Fallout, I was like, I'm watching so much like where English is just not the primary language, where it's either like, the third or fourth, or it's like 10% of the show or something. And I was just like, dude, I can't think of a time when it's been like this all consuming. And then I was like, and I also have a bunch on my list. And of course, Sympathizer just started, which is a whole other thing. We're in Vietnam with a Korean director, and it's about, you know, Vietnam versus American identity. It's got all sorts of different stuff going on there. We'll definitely touch on that one once you've gotten into it and once it's over. It's only 6 episodes. So anyways, uh yeah, Japanese
I
stuff
was gonna.
on the brain for the last like basically 3 months or so.
I had this
Crazy.
thought as I was closing out Shogun the other morning. I was like, there's only like a handful of American actors like off the top of my head that I can think of who they say they can whatever say a lot by saying nothing with through facial expressions, whatever,
Hmm.
all that's there's a couple European actors or whatever that do as well. Everybody on Shogun, and I would in Tokyo Vice as well, obviously. Well, the Japanese actors at least are
Yes.
able to do that like with ease, and it's like almost all of them.
It,
Fucking
it's
fucking
it's
eightfold
pretty
fence, bro.
incredible. Exactly, dude. Well, and like, okay, not to immediately dive into Tokyo Vice and beating up on one of our favorite shared punching bags, Mr. Ansel Elgort. But just, yeah, dude, constantly stopping throughout season 2 in my head to be like, dude, this is like their second language, dude. They're out acting you in your
And second
native
language,
tongue in their second language. I'm like,
so
you're
good.
doing scenes where it's like, okay, like, you know, it just acting circles around you, dude. Ridiculous. Okay. So we talked on last time. I had only seen the very first episode of Tokyo Vice, season two, and you were a little bit further along. And then subsequently I had heard, hey, season two, like maybe jumps up a notch. There was like kind of a critical reappraisal of it. And I was like, okay, okay. So that kind of gave me the kick in the ass, obviously. And I knew we were going to do this at some point. But I kind of put it on the back burner and I was so into Shogun. Uh, but yeah, I dove back in. I got to kind of the mid-season break. There's kind of a big shootout sort of thing, kind of a shocking, like, oh, didn't see that coming mid-season. That happens. And I took another little break because a little show called Fallout came out. Maybe we'll talk about that a little later. And then I dove back in and dude, I crushed the end of season two in like a day and a half. And I had a I overall I had a great time with it. I think like loved it even more than season one. The issues I have with it are still there and pretty glaring, and we know what they are, and I don't want to harp on them. But I will say I kind of have not come I still have fundamental issues with him as an actor and as a dude. But within the context of the show, uh I've kind of come around on the Jake character in a way that I didn't expect to. Not that I'm still not like rooting for him, and I still like fundamentally I just kind of hate the guy. He's just such a dork. And and kind of a shit most of the
Oh, yeah. I
time.
don't know if I
Um,
mentioned this to you earlier. I'm sorry because I want to say it because it's like
oh, go
definitely
for it.
want to forget this because I wanted to talk to you about this at one point. Maybe I held it for this, but I was like watching it mid-season and he's just kind of being a dork and he's kind of being grating to the people around him. And in my mind, I was like, is he actually killing it, or does he suck? Like, because I was like, is he playing the part so well that I dislike him, and that's actually the point, or is he just really bad and degrading no matter what?
Yeah.
I liked him in Baby Driver. I did think I was like, is there anything I liked him in? I was like, Baby Driver's cool. And then is he in A Fault in Our Stars? I only saw that
Yes,
one
which I did
many,
not
many
see,
years
so
ago.
yeah, I can't comment on. I know that was kind of the
He's actually
breakthrough for him. Yeah.
pretty fucking charming in it. If I remember, I kind of like
Hmm.
begrudgingly went and watched that, but like I remember thinking in that movie, I was like, wow, he's actually pretty fucking charming in that movie. And then in this, he's just, I absolutely hate him. So, so I
Yeah.
don't know.
So okay, Jake's a good place to start. So uh the kind of arc of him facing the consequences of like getting too close to the story, the fallout into his personal life. There was a At a certain point I was like, is the show actively like is it aware how much people are just kind of like, oh my God, can we just get him off the show? And I was like, are they teasing us with like maybe he'll just go to America and like just fucking disappear? And then I was like, wait, are they really gonna follow him to America for his dad's like birth? And and I still don't think that was a totally successful decision to like move outside of Tokyo and go back to the States. But the fact that they did manage to plot wise, like turn the corner and like they tied a lot of nice little bows this season, which was just it's just satisfying on like a plotting level. But to basically see like all the little threads we set up, like everything, everything paid off. And
I got a
yeah, it
I got a couple
basically
things we
roping
should.
back into the case managed to make that whole thing work. But when they were first going to do that, I was like, dude, are we about to spend a whole episode in America with him and his family? Like, I can't do this. And luckily it was, we were cutting back and forth and there was other stuff going on. I thought like a serious missed opportunity with the casting of his dad to like
You didn't think he was any good?
I thought he was fine, but I was just
I
like,
thought he was pretty good.
I thought you could have brought in like a heavy hitter there to
Oh,
like
okay, yeah,
really,
yeah.
you know, I thought the dude who pitched him on like, hey, if you stick around and come right for me,
He was
the
very
guy
good. He
who
was
was like his
compelling, yeah.
inspiration, I was like, that guy was like really, really good. The dad was just I didn't think he was bad. I was just kind of like, oh, that's in like in most shows, maybe not. maybe not Max Originals, maybe like an actual HBO show. Maybe we get a big name there. I was just saying.
It's funny because I actually did not have an issue with the dad at all. I thought he was pretty well cast. The sister was pretty good too.
I
The
guess
mom, I don't
I guess as
remember,
far as
but
being like, yeah, pretty like realistic and down to earth. Yeah, the mom is on Breaking Bad most recently as she's Gretchen and Elliot. Uh
oh, okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
she was the only one I couldn't remember from the because I remember the sister was pretty good, the dad was okay, and then yeah, like you said the guy who came in offered the job was probably the best in the whole sequence.
Yeah, yeah. But I was surprised that they managed to pull that off. Uh Not
Yeah.
something I thought they should do. I was like, this is a terrible decision. Like, don't do this. And then
Well,
they made it work.
not to jump around, but
Dude,
just well, I guess
absolutely. Again, if you haven't seen, we're spoiling all of season two. And if you came here for the Shogun chat, just check the timestamps in the episode if you want to jump ahead, because I know there's probably some crossover, but maybe
yeah,
not.
we'll
Maybe
hit the
not.
only overlap at the end, I'm sure, when we transition into Shogun, and
I'm so
it's
curious.
glaring, and I'm so excited.
Yes.
But what I was gonna say was, I actually felt like that the very I wanted there to be a little more payoff. And this is becoming a theme with me and show talking about shows with you recently, but like towards the end, I thought there was going to be maybe a little more payoff, a little more satisfaction at the end of the show in terms of like closing off certain storylines that had kind of been developed, and they kind of left like a decent amount of hanging chads. I thought.
Well, let's definitely get to that, I guess, on the tail. Let's save some of those because I thought it wrapped up rather neatly as far as a like if they don't get a third season, it ended on
So
a
I'll agree
good
with you.
note.
That was the vibe I got. The vibe I got was exactly what you just said, was that I think that they felt like they're not getting another season. And also they kind of told their story. And so like you could easily
Well,
put the bow on it.
so when you and I talked last time, I was like, okay, I kind of see where they're going. They're gonna like close the book on the first season and the whole like going after Tozawa, and it's gonna be a different story, or he'll pursue other things. And then like within, an hour and a half of season two, it's like, oh, okay, no, it's literally right back to the same story, everything that was set up in season one. Like we got to pay this off, and I thought it was a pretty effective. Like I will say, I didn't think there was nearly enough like actually having like Tozawa do like badass villainous shit within this season to kind of remind us like, oh, he is this like notorious figure. He must be brought down. It's just a lot of people telling you like this is the dude. He's really bad. Uh I liked like the whole angle of his wife coming in. That was a
Oh,
nice
dude,
surprise.
dude, that was
That
one of
was
my
killer.
favorite parts about the season.
And that's an interesting thread that's like still hanging
Came out
out
of no,
there.
loved it.
Uh our man Sato, who basically is like he's the reason the show works and like is as successful as it is, because it's like, okay,
He's your
you
hero,
have
your
you
anti-hero.
have you have the backbone of Ken Watanabe, and it's like he's gonna be your rock. He's solid. He's so solid. He's gonna be there. You're gonna have to watch him do some scenes with Ansel Elgort, but arguably he brings out the best in Ansel Elgort. I would say their scenes together are maybe his strongest. Sorry, transitioning for a second, the whole debate over whether Elgort is good or not. So I agree. I think he plays like the shit pretty well, whether he's conscious of how good he is at it, because I'm like, I think that maybe it's just you. But here's where I'm like, he's just fundamentally not a good actor. The scenes with him and Tozawa's woman, that whole love story angle, all of their scenes together feel so uncomfortable and forced and awkward. His moments when he has to get tough, he's like, I hate that fucker so much. Like it's just I just it is a it's
He
so
seems
weird again
eager.
because
Yeah, it's just eagerness. Yeah, it
he's
sucks.
this
It sucks.
like 6'5" like giant. Like they set up in the first season that like he's training in judo or jujitsu or whatever, and it's like, but he's just not imposing at all. Like there is no Michael Mann protagonist buried in this guy, which is what I kind of always had hoped for. And when the show started, it's like he's not there, you know. It's just he's not that guy. And that's why I would love so much to see a season three where he kind of fades to the background. Uh,
You know who's in a similar, I'm sorry, a similar actor who plays kind of like just he plays a fuck in every TV show and movie. Is it Billy Magnuson? Is that his name?
yeah, yeah. Most recently in Roadhouse. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but he always plays an absolute fuck in absolutely everything, and it works. And like maybe just Ansel Elgort has just been miscast, and he really is should be in that role always. You know what I mean? Like maybe he should one of those guys because I can hate him in a show for sure.
I
So
was
it
just
would be
gonna say,
hard.
so here's the thing. I they I've gotten you into the Ringer verse, so to speak,
Oh, for sure,
the Ringer
winger.
podcast. I'm sure at this point on rewatchables, they've talked about market correction.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Miles Teller is so clearly like he won the battle between the two of them, if there
Oh,
ever
yeah,
was one. Like it wasn't even
yeah.
close. It wasn't even
I didn't even know
it
there was a battle.
and that's what I was gonna say. It wasn't even like a single punch knockout sort of thing. It was the opening scene of Roadhouse where they're like, I have to fight that guy? Nah, I'm not doing it. And he just walks out. Like it's that scene. That's what it was. Okay. He so clearly ate his lunch. But Miles Teller is another dude who like I think we've slowly discovered I think he's kind of a dick, kind of an asshole, and I think he is best when he plays someone who's kind of an asshole. I think those like did you ever watch Too Old to Die Young on Amazon?
I saw first couple episodes. Listen, I like her stuff. I really do. I don't know why I have to be in a specific mood. I have to be like in a, like this like patient mood, which is very rare for me, where I can like sit. I like what she's doing. I'm into it. I'm
Oh,
just
Nicholas Winding Refn, male.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, male. Sorry, I don't know
Yes.
why I thought it was a she. Sorry. Yes, because I watched the other show on Netflix that came out on Netflix, and I forget the name of it now. They all have the same vibe, and they're
Copenhagen Cowboy.
thank you, Copenhagen Cowboy. Sam and I watched that. We enjoyed it. But like just to answer your question, no, we didn't finish. I didn't finish it yet, but I've been meaning to. I don't know. There's nothing, no reason why it stopped me, but like, yes, everything that I don't know. I kind of want to root for him, and I'm basing it all off. What's the movie with him and
Is the Spectacular Now.
yeah, yeah, spectacular now because like
Oh, I again, I say all this to say, he is like I enjoy him thoroughly. Like I would say is one of my dudes. He's the successful version of this, but I was saying, I think he is most successful when he plays somebody who's a little bit of a piece of shit. And I was just bringing up the Too Old
he
to Die
was in
Young
that movie.
character, is like as it progresses, is like maybe the darkest role he's ever played. And like the Whiplash character, for instance, like guys
Yeah,
kind of,
dude, first thing my mind went to when you said that. Yeah,
guys
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of shit. And I think it's still maybe his best performance.
Dude, that breakup scene in Whiplash with him is still one fucking like that's what I remember from that movie. Like I don't care how good Simmons is in that movie. Like I don't know why the breakup scene with him and that girl to me always just sticks in my mind.
Yeah, I think it's, you know, it's the rare like embarrassment of riches where it's just like, oh, okay, like J.K. Simmons is so good that he gets overshadowed, but it's like but they are both like Oscar caliber in that movie. Like arguably it should have been best and supporting, like 100%. But what are you gonna do? Anyways, uh, so we don't have to beat up on him too much more, but that I just wanted to say, like, yeah, the romance scenes, that whole angle, so unconvincing to me. I don't think he quote unquote has it. I don't think he has the facility like within a given scene to be like, this is how I should deliver this set of lines. And again, if I'm even being like somewhat generous, it's like, okay, he also is doing scenes in Japanese, like as well. There is this constant, like, I'm, switching back and forth between two languages. Like,
Which is pretty good. I didn't even
you
think
know,
about that. Yeah.
And like I do have to kind of settle on a like particular performance style and register. I was like, I get that he's doing a lot. It's like I couldn't do that shit. But at the same time, it's just sometimes I feel like, dude, everybody else is like dialed into what this show is and the world of this show. And you are like, I'm constantly fighting a battle with whether or not you're taking me out of it. And
Let me tell
eventually
you,
I
like,
just kind of get over it. But yeah.
you know what you know what it is, or for me, I can. It's like I knew what it was from the moment it was going on. And was it you that was telling me that as a director, Ventura will do 100 takes with someone because he wants to get the earnestness or the eagerness out of you. For
Yeah.
him, it's like that's what it is for that's what it is with Belgor for me. It's like he just seems like he just like eager to please, eager to do a good job. Well, that's what I'm saying is that like I've seen other stuff that he's been in and I didn't get that vibe so much, which is why I'm like, is he fucking killing here and just being the shitheel that everyone hates? Or like is I don't know, I just it's hard to
And
quite figure out.
again, that that's the constant like battle in my head. And what's so interesting about the show is like again, Jake Adelstein is a producer on the show, the writer of the book that the show is based on. And it's like, does the show want me to think this guy sucks? Like, is he okay with this portrayal? I don't, I have so many questions. I have so many questions. Like, do they think we think this guy is cool and we're rooting for him? And like, oh, this crazy fish out of water story. Like, hope he, hope he takes down the Yakuza. I'm like, no, I literally just like take him out of this. We can keep the maid show and the like, the media press angle of it. I love Rinko Kikuchi and I love the two other like I
Right.
loved building out their characters more and I loved like that's again, that's what I hate about the fact that I hate the Elgort performance so much is like I still get wrapped up in when he pisses off the buddies in the office and like betrays them and backstabs them and like they're not on good terms and then they make up later in the season and then he also and we reveal that he actually double crossed the other friend with his buddy from the FBI.
That's the thing is he does they never rectify.
Yeah, no, that's left dangling, but I'm like when they came back together I was like, oh, okay, I'm glad buddies again, and I'm like, wait, why do I'm like I was happier when they were like, yeah, fuck you, dude. Like you're being a dick. Like I
And
wanted him
and
on
to
the
be
outs for most of the
oh,
season, like indefinitely, if
for
not. I
sure.
wanted him to just go back to America.
You wanted less scenes with him, and so did I. But like the whole fucking zero journalistic integrity sort of thing, like, is that a thing? Do you just trade sources in to get more information? Like
Well,
I don't think
dude,
that's a thing.
well,
Is that a thing?
his whole thing earlier in the season where he's so adamant for like 3 or 4 episodes about like, I'm not gonna give you that source. I'm not gonna give you that source to like the Japanese police investigation. And then like at the drop of a hat, he get, you know, he ends up giving it when he's back on quote unquote American soil and everything. It's just
Oh
like,
yeah, to get a better piece of information from the FBI at one point too, where he's like, I want, no, give us
and
your source.
then also has the gall to play dumb and basically try to lie to his friend about it when he confronts him, and then ultimately be like, "I'm sorry, dude. It was the only way I could get the story." I'm just like, dude, you're such a little bitch, dude. Like you suck so
Once
much.
again, circle back to our main point is he really good or does he suck? I
Yeah,
don't know. And it
I don't
really, at
know.
the end of the day, it just that like I don't even know. I could not name other than Ken Watanabe. I could not tell you one Japanese actor in the show, but they were fucking phenomenal. Every
Yeah,
single.
so we got to talk about Sato, who, you know, he's He's on he's on the inside. He's like right on the edge of, taking over. Then this other dude comes in, this wild card, who feels really arbitrary that they're just like, hey, this absolutely like sociopathic, clearly to everybody in the room, sociopathic individual, we're gonna make him the new right-hand man for
Well, he
no
paid his dues,
reason.
right? I think they said he did like what 10 years in prison or
He,
something.
I forgot he was fresh out of prison. Yes, okay.
He had done
That was the
something
whole
early,
thing.
paid his dues, and then yeah. I think it was like a sense of like you fulfill this role.
But yeah, as soon as they introduced him, this absolute madman, I was like, okay, so ticking clock on like how long do we have to wait to murder this dude? Um,
Well, and the payoff was one of the best parts about the whole season.
100%. They made you wait for it, but like
Fucking earned it. They
that
earned the.
scene in the bathhouse was so satisfying. The eye gouge, the like for a moment when Sato like has him down on the ground, pummeling his face in, and you think it's over, and I'm like, all right, he's just gonna drag him, and like I guess they'll like, uh I don't know. They'll take him into the council and like have him banished or whatever. I don't know what happens now. But no, he immediately takes him into the bath. And then the reveal that like they all jump in and help him like collectively
Dude, to
drown
me,
this dude. So
dude, to
good.
me, to me, that's why that scene worked is because like they didn't try to pull some bullshit like, oh, he's this macho guy. I mean, we watch him smoke 2 packs of cigarettes a day basically on the show. He's skinny as a pole, never eats, and he gets his ass kicked a little bit. But what ends up fucking winning the day is the fact that he's a whatever, he's a good leader. I guess is kind of the thing in the show, right? Like, and I love
Yeah.
that. I love that. And then he actually had other people kill this dude for him because he didn't have to say. Anyway, that scene, best part of the whole season.
Yeah. That is Sho Kazamatsu, who was a total discovery for me in the first season and continues to. I'm just like, dude, I will keep an eye on like whatever his next big like movie project is or anything because he's just a very compelling screen presence and pretty good facility with like, dipping into the English language when he needs to, but just another guy along with Watanabe who I'm just like I can just watch that dude like you said just stand there and smoke cigarettes and not say anything and I just
Yeah,
like dude this is compelling television. This is really
yeah,
compelling television right now. Uh so he there's the whole arc with his brother like getting roped into it, which if I'm gonna be honest feels like very fucking cliched. Like we've seen it in a
yeah.
billion things, but
Fair.
but it
That's fair.
worked. But
But it was okay.
but
Yeah,
it
it was
worked.
okay.
It's like, sometimes we do the cliches because they work. Um, but I didn't know if this is where you were going to go with the transition or whatever, but it does get into a little bit of that, you know, that frustration of the societal constraints of your station and, you know, the structure, the rules, the levels, because you're just like, dude, in any normal circumstances, if this dude was like basically seducing my brother into a life of crime, I would just like fucking end him. Like if, you know, in any other circumstances, but the fact that he's trapped in a situation where he somehow gets forced out and his brother is still in, and it's also just like, what is the obsession with like keeping the little brother around and like having him out on the streets? Like,
Well,
getting into
for me,
shit.
well, at least in terms of like what it meant within the story of the show, for me, it meant that like he had something he could lord over this guy that I think subconsciously he knows is better than him and is more suited to the role that he is currently in. You know what I mean? Like to me, it was more of like a, hey, fuck you, look at the power I have. But it's like,
Absolutely. But again, from a practical leadership position, you're like, hey, if you are like trying to send a message and you need people executed in the street, maybe send a guy who's shot a gun before, you know?
yeah,
It's
yeah,
just like
maybe send a
it,
cold-hearted, yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
maybe not
Not the
send
kid
out the
who's been
fucking, the
college kid.
rookie, the fucking rookie. Yeah. Uh, but anyways, that all worked for me. Uh, Ultimately, I mean, I kind of knew where it was headed, where I was like, okay, Oyabun tells him like, hey, I need you to take over. And then
You're my guy. You're my guy.
in the next scene, he gets killed. And I'm like, oh, shame nobody else heard that conversation and nobody else can vouch for you. Where it's like,
Dude,
hey, I
how
wanted
about
this guy
that
to take
actor?
over. Like,
That guy, who is that guy? That guy was incredible. I that was he was one of my favorite guys on the show, I thought. Like,
Ishida, yeah.
yeah,
Uh, yeah, dude, a dude who clearly has been smoking since he was
his whole life.
10 years old. Incredible voice, great delivery. I was so bummed when he got taken out. That was yeah, that was upsetting. That you know, bummed that I kind of for half a second I thought maybe he was going to survive and just be like laid up for a while. Uh, but yeah, it was a bummer seeing him go. But when I ultimately knew where we were going with Sato, I was like, okay, he's going to be ascendant. I was like, somehow by the end of this season, he will be he'll be up there. And again, the way they kind of organically wrapped it in with where everything had gone with Jake and like how they ultimately get Tozawa, that it can't be this like, okay, well, police couldn't get him, media couldn't do it, we got to let the criminals, the trash take out the trash, so to speak. I thought was a very satisfying ending. The you know,
Oh, like
this
working within sort of like working within the bounds of the law or whatever. We can't do X, Y, and Z within the organization or whatever. Yeah, yeah. I love. Yeah, that was all. That worked. That all was
yeah.
good.
I guess we didn't really hit Samantha. And on the note of Sato, I really liked the chemistry and the romance with the woman and
Can I
with the
tell you my
kid.
issue with that
Go
whole?
ahead. Go ahead, man.
This is one of my things with the season where I was like, this just fucking barely makes sense. It's like, all right, cool. Jake and Samantha not going to be a thing. Fine. She's got her shit together. She's way too smart for that dipshit, right? Like we all everyone's on board with that. With the Sato piece though, like him with this other I forget whatever the lady, the Japanese
Erica, I
lady with the
think.
son. Yeah, whatever. I forget her name. Yeah, that whole thing. I was like that. Like I was with you, totally digging it. Love the vibe, and all of a sudden they just kind of like drop this axe towards the three-quarters of the way through the season. We're like, just kidding. He's gonna go with Samantha. It's like I
Yeah,
don't
well, that's why I wanted to
know.
bring it
Like
up because I was going to ask you like, yeah, how do we feel about that decision? Because I was not like happy to see them back together. I was like, nah, dude, I
zero.
really liked that.
Didn't
I
work.
like,
It to me, it didn't work at all.
yeah,
Yeah, I could have. I would have been more happy had it gone the other way. And
yeah,
Samantha has her own storyline, and it is it's good enough on its own. It doesn't need that. It doesn't need that.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
anyway,
that was definitely like, points off there. That was a bummer. I didn't want that to go in that direction. But overall, like I said, Ringo Kikuchi's character at the May show, uh, the ongoing drama with her brother and her new lover, uh, that stuff, maybe a little more, not, I don't want to call it soapy or whatever, but a little more,
filler. It was
yeah,
filler.
a little more filler, but again, manages to kind of round it in where it's like, well, even though they've had this strained relationship, they can't publish over here at the May Show. We have these stories. It goes to the magazine. She has this connection with him there. There's the setup that maybe she'll go work for him there. And, so I was like, okay, it was a lot of like quote unquote filler to get to there. It's filler that works for me because I love her. And it's
It
like
was well executed, but
anything with her character is like works for me. But the escalation to like, oh, her brother has a break and like goes and tries to kidnap the kid and then like all of that shit. I was just like,
so
did we need all of this, man? The
what my whole
awkward
thing
dinner was enough. Like that was fine. We got the tension, you know.
I don't, yeah, I guess I don't know. Like sometimes there's like so much tangential stuff in a show. It's like you could have done so much more in service of I always get story and plot mixed up, but you could do so much more in terms of like the actual story that's being told it
Yeah, no,
without,
I was gonna say it is a show that is very plot first, story second to me, where I don't find myself thinking about the show or the themes of it with any particular amount of depth. It's more like, oh, I'm interested to see how all of these plot threads connect together. Um,
and a lot of times they don't at all.
yeah, exactly. Which I
It's just
think
like
is
a
why
dead end. Yeah.
it does play better in a binge. Like I'm kind of glad I didn't watch it week to week because I think,
That's
you
what
know,
I did. Yeah. And I
yeah,
have some serious issues with this season.
yeah.
You gave it a, what did you give it? You gave it like a 9 out of 10 or something?
Nah, I went 8.75 if only because I think I gave the first season an 8.5 or maybe an
Oh,
8.
okay. Okay.
Which again, I always caveat this as Gavin will as well. There's a certain amount of like you're showing me Tokyo in the 90s,
It was cool.
which I got to live in for like 3 years as a little kid, and there's some like nostalgic connection in my brain that I'm just like I want to be there like all the time. So any show any show set in Tokyo or Japan has like a certain level of interest from me. But particularly 90s Tokyo, you're hitting like a lot of pleasure centers like all at once. And the fact that, again, when it was announced, it was like new Michael Mann show. And that aspect, that side of it, like very quickly faded to the background. Like it feels so far removed from anything that has anything to do with him other than the fact that he has a producer credited on it still. But um, you know, so I caveat all of that by I'm just like, dude, it scratches an itch, period. I have like glaring issues with the show, but at the same time, like the vibes are usually pretty off the charts, like with this one, just from the setting alone. Um,
Oh, dude,
Again, I wish it was just a Yakuza versus cop show, with maybe a little bit of reporter intrigue mixed in. I don't need the whole like fish out of water angle. I don't even think that he's a big selling point as an international presence. That's why I kind of just
you're right.
don't get the character, the
Well, you
character, the
can't.
approach,
But
or
the
the
thing is
angle
that
at this point.
if you're adapting a TV show from the book, like you can't do it without the point of view of the author, which is unfortunate. But like it is what I mean. I guess you could, right? But it would be
Yeah.
a different show, and you wouldn't have the rights to the story, and things would have to be completely different. And guess what? Whoever wrote that show, if it's not, whatever and whatever the actual Jake Adelstein, if he wasn't the guy who adapted his own book, then whoever did it could have easily created a Yakuza show in Japan set in the 90s that could have easily been better than the show. And
Oh,
it
yeah,
was for sure. And
absolutely.
whatever writer's room or whatever they got going on there. But anyway,
So
as I
yeah,
dug,
it's definitely a take what you can get, but yeah, that's where I land. Again, I thought it finished super strong. Those last like 3, 4 episodes, I was like pretty amped up by.
damn dude, no, but that's like that was my thing, is that like was it 10 episode season? Is that right?
Yeah.
Eight. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm more of
8 for the first season and 10 for this one. So
I'm more of an advocate for the first nine, and then the 10th one I was like, ugh, really? And that was it. And like that's how I felt.
I found that I almost wanted a little more of Tozawa being a bad man beforehand to make the seppuku pay off, but I really found that scene very effective
Speaking of Sip,
and satisfying. Yeah, is that
that
where
was
we were going?
that was the
Yes.
transition piece too. I was sitting there, I'm like, been watching Shogun, all these things, and then like, we've been watching, we did the 2x2, and then didn't even see it coming when when the show is about to end for this season, and they put the fucking blade in front of him, and they basically imply seppuku. I went, get the fuck out of here. Like, that's so awesome. Dude, I was like, are you kidding me? Because I was like, I can't wait to be like, this is the thing in my mind that links the two shows, is that because like in their whatever in their thinking, which is flawed. We don't have to get into that, but it's like the Yakuza, the honor, the whatever, that
They're
whole system
they
is
keep the old school
the old
traditions.
school
Yes.
tradition. And you can call it whatever. We don't need to talk about the hypocrisy in that. But
Yeah.
anyway, just yeah, so fucking sweet. I was like, that's awesome.
I did have questions though, because again, we don't see it like, oh, we see the aftermath of it. We don't see it happen on screen, but I'm like, do you get a second? Like in modern like Yakuza standards, do you get a second to somebody like his head was intact, obviously, but can somebody come up and put a bullet in you to like spare you
Who's gonna
or do you,
second him? Yeah.
yeah, or do you just have to bleed out? Like, I don't know. Uh, but yeah, interesting that we have two shows that end with seppuku. Only a couple weeks apart. Uh, so Shogun, dude. Okay, I I don't I don't really have anything to say other than I was just what a pleasure. Every single week I look forward to watching it, and every single week when it ended, I was just like, this is this is a great fucking show. And I continued to feel that way all the way up through the finale. And yeah, dude, I think it is one of, if not the best limited series in decades. Like stand again, if it stands as a standalone limited and they don't do a follow-up or spin-off or anything else, which I don't think is going to happen. If it stands as just these 10 episodes, I think it's a pretty amazing achievement, like top to bottom. Uh, how did you feel? We talked like I think we talked maybe after 8. I don't know if we talked about 9 or we know we
Yeah.
did talk about 9. This is off mic though, obviously. We when we first talked, we were both enjoying the show. It was only 2 episodes deep. Uh, how did you feel as it went along?
Um, you know, I really don't. So I wonder actually when I was watching the show if if I had read the book, if maybe I would feel differently about it. I assume it's probably a pretty good adaptation. I don't know. The only reason I say this, I was talking to did they make an old school TV version of this show as well? Or yeah.
Yeah, in
So
the
it's so funny. I
in
was
the
like, my
80s, yes.
so speaking of transplant people, tie back to Tokyo Vice. My dad gave his kidney to his brother this week, and I flew out to
Oh
Jackson
shit.
for that. And
We're
anyway, I was talking to him during his recovery process. I said, "Hey, you got to watch Shogun." And he goes, "Oh, great book." And I was like, "What?" And he goes, "Yeah, James Clavell. I've read all his stuff." I was like, "Wait, what?" He's like, "Oh yeah, King Rat and whatever." And he was just telling
yeah,
me about all these books.
your
And I was
dad's
like,
like,
"Oh,
yeah, I read the 5 other book or
yeah,
yeah, I think it's 5 other books in like the Japan
yeah,
saga
yeah." So you did. I guess you read
after
most of them.
Shogun. Yeah.
Yeah, and so and other ones that were unrelated and completely different stories. But I remember he told me it must have been a good book because he said, "Oh yeah, the year was 1970 whatever, 9 or something." And he goes, "And I read it in San Diego or something like that at my buddy's condo." And I was like, "What?" Like I was like, but anyway, so the book must be amazing. But anyway, I was telling him to watch your show, and I guess the way I felt about the end of it was not to like continue saying this about every show that I've talked to you about on this podcast, but um, I didn't dislike it in any way, and I loved that it kind of like subverted everybody's
But
expectations,
literally every expectation you could have for a finale. Yes.
which actually was one of my favorite things about the show was that it turned out to be more political thriller than action adventure yada 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 in medieval
Yeah.
Japan, and which to me was so much cooler, and it just worked so much more. But no, like I felt maybe that's how I was supposed to feel though. I don't know. I haven't really come full circle yet, but like the final portion of the show where like we see him in bed. Is he in England? Where is he? And then like they're trying to pull the boat out. Cool, you got Yabushige kills himself, does seppuku or whatever. That's we'll see was fucking amazing.
I
And
mean,
then he
that
called
might be my favorite television scene of the year. There's just the
yeah, yeah.
I didn't know that that's what I really wanted out of this finale, but that's what I wanted. I wanted those 2 dudes talking on a cliff for like 10 minutes. That's what I wanted. That was some of the best TV I've seen
Well,
amongst 10 hours of incredible television.
and maybe my mind's changing here
But
right
yeah,
now, right? Because maybe that was the payoff of the show, right? Is like so like very cool, right? We send Mariko, like a woman, to go basically do the job of like thousands of people, and she's able to do that without anybody having to kill anyone else, really, for the most part.
yeah.
And like that's super cool. The whole political thriller part, love it. But I love the Yabushige thing because it's like the point of it's almost like viewer point of view, sort of like talking to Toranaga, like, are you really a good guy? Or are you really a hypocritical piece of shit? Like just another politician. And as it turns out, Yabushige is that guy, and he sits there and he's like, you're really just you're very smart and you're very cunning, but you're the same as everybody else. And you
Yeah,
all you
is like you're and dude, that's I mean, that's what I absolutely loved about it is like you have these 2 dudes who fundamentally
are
like
different.
yes, who but fundamentally have the same kind of like ambition. Like they do, they want for something. The difference is in how they approach it. And Tornaga is the ultimate just like I got all day. Like I literally I got all day. I could just sit here. I could just wait. And Yabashige is the one who's just like, oh no, dude, I gotta scheme, dude. I gotta play this side against this side or whatever. And he's just the like, he can't sit still for 2 seconds. And it's these two completely different mentalities and different approaches with the same core to them. As he mentions, it's like, oh, you're no better than me. But it's like, but it's all in the approach, dude. And Yabashige is just this dude just down here in the dirt, dude, just getting lost in the muck, like can't see shit. Meanwhile, Toranaga is like living life up here on a hill, just watching everybody else like they're fucking ants, just waiting for his moment to like burn the anthill, basically. And but again, the fact that it's not for some greater good for the protection of the realm or anything, for the fact that the reveal is like, nah, it's because it's me. Because ultimately I do think that it's me that should be the guy making the decisions. And it's like the turn towards that because he has been the way the show withholds him from you, where it's like there's whole episodes where he's not even on screen, and there's huge swaths of episodes again where we don't know what's going on with him. We only hear like tangentially through messages and like, spies, blah, 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 what may or may not be his motivations, what's going on with him. And he's been, again, this eightfold fence the whole fucking show. And I love that the only time he like kind of lifts the veil, if you will, or like, opens the gate is when he knows it's like, I'm about to cut this fucker's head off, dude. It doesn't matter. Like I can have this moment where I can show my true self to someone because I know like this is it. This is just a private moment between me and him. I thought that scene was fucking phenomenal. And to the point of like, yeah, dude, the rhythm of it did catch me off guard when we get into like, okay, they're pulling up the ship. It feels very much like, all right, dude, like this is like the start of, we're setting things in motion for season two. Okay. Um, but it's that look between Blackthorn and Toranaga at the end, which I think is Blackthorn finally getting it too, like finally kind of realizing, you know, what Yabashige ultimately saw on that cliffside, which is like, oh, this dude, like, he, he's got it all fucking figured out. Like, every
Uh,
time I thought, like, oh, he's fucking sacrificing a woman, like, well, it's just like, it's the final acknowledgement of like I won't even say game recognized game because Blackthorn has no game, dude. He just floundered like the whole fucking season, like a fish out of
well,
water.
let's
Like,
let's not forget the one of the most important lines in that last episode when he's like that we talks about the barbarian and he says, I keep him around not because he's important, but
dude,
because he makes me laugh. And
again,
I was like,
that
dude, my mind went
dude,
boom.
that shit. And he's just like, and because my enemies needed a distraction, and you're just like, dude, all of that stuff. Because again,
Guys
the
playing
simple
chess.
fact
Everyone's
that
playing checkers.
to
Yeah.
to his enemies and everybody, it's just like, well, what? But why? Why does he think this guy's so important? Like, why does he keep intervening? And it's like there must be something up with this guy. And it inflates your perception of Blackthorn so much where you're like, there must be some long con game in this. Like, I guess it's the cannons, right? It's the ship. Okay. And then it's like, the ship's burned. Yeah, ship's gone.
Burned by the
Like
person who
by him.
died for it.
He's like, yeah, and I'm gonna have him rebuild it, and then probably have to burn that shit again. But I'm gonna keep him around here. I don't think he's meant to leave Japan. Just all of that,
Dude,
dude.
that whole thing, and that's why I was saying it's like, am I dude, I fucking love the show. And I think talking about it is bringing more of that out in me right now because I'm just like, I watch it and like, you want some sort of like dramatic, huge finish, but that's
Well,
why the show is so much better than than that. It's
and
just so
and
much.
here's what it was, and I didn't kind of realize it until retrospect. A lot of people pointed this out too, but it's like it gave you the big splashy finale. It was just episode 9, which is a
Yeah.
thing that penultimate episodes usually do in ongoing series. Like Game of Thrones was notorious for it. You have the crazy shit go down in episode 9, and then and like even like something like Mad Men or Sopranos would always kind of do the thing where it's like you have the crazy shit happen right before the end of the season. and then you have that finale episode to kind of be like, oh shit, everything's in flux. What the fuck might happen? Throw it all up in the air and then go away for a year. But knowing that this was going to be like what I thought was like a pretty solid, like beginning, middle, and end story, I didn't know what to expect from the penultimate episode. And we talked on the phone about how it was like, it's a subversion of what you expect from a penultimate episode because it's like it's not, I mean, it's literally called Crimson Sky. And so the whole episode you're sitting there going like, all right, so when's the trap gonna spring? And
When
like
are ninjas
when they
going over
gonna yeah,
samurai going over the
when are they gonna do the Crimson Sky shit? And again, the
realize
realizing
it's
at the
just
end that
her
like
calling
it's
out a
just
bureaucrat
her.
in a crowded room. Yeah,
Yeah, dude.
dude,
The
I love
again, the
that
show
whole fuck.
literally go ahead, sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry, I just that whole thing where it's just like on the side, was it Lady Ochiba? She refers to God, the bad guy. Give me a what's his name? The bureaucrat.
Um, oh my God.
Besides the point, but she basically identifies something that is just
Wait, is
like
that's Ishida?
that's
Ishida's the
Ishida.
best.
Sorry,
Yes.
that's Ishida. You're right.
I misused Ishida's name earlier,
That's what I
attributing it
think
to
that's
somebody
yeah, we're
else.
both mixed
Yes.
on that. But she basically all the women are like accurately identifying everything that's going on in the show with the dudes, which is hilarious. It's just awesome. It's just amazing. And she's and she says like he is a bureaucrat. There is absolutely nothing special about him, and it's like he just happens to be the person that's like in the vicinity at this point in time, and he's doing whatever he can to hold on to power. It's like he's nothing special. Like
Yeah.
that whole fucking thing, and then Mariko coming in and basically holding his feet to the fire and just sitting there saying like, well, if I'm not a prisoner, I can leave, right? Dude, that whole thing to me, that worked so fucking much for me. That whole
Dude.
I don't know why that shit was
No,
that's the
so
best part of the whole
so
show.
good too, dude. And like again, subverting the expectations. When when she goes to actually exit and they have like her whole crew gets wiped out, and then she picks up a staff, and you're like, you're wanting in your head, it's like, all right, dude, now's the time when she fucking like twirls
Yeah.
around and like Kill Bill's like 12
Crouching
dudes.
Tiger, hidden dragon.
Exactly. You're like, all right, dude, I'm fucking ready for it. And the show's just like, this is still happening in like a grounded reality. Like, no, she's going to fight futilely against a bunch of dudes who will not kill her because nobody wants to be the dude who killed Lady Mariko. Like, nobody's actually going to hurt her, but she also physically like cannot get past this wall of like armored dudes. And like I was just like, dude, the frustration of that and like her rage within the context of the show, I was like, dude, this is perfect, dude. There's a bunch of people watching this right now who are just like, what the fuck, man? And it's like, hey, guess what? That's like how we want you to feel right now. It's like the
But
futility of
well,
fighting against this and
but
like,
at
yeah,
the same time, it's like part of the master plan, right? It's like the whole idea is to call out the fact that like if this basically like weak little bureaucrat, who like seems like he has power, has to address the fact that he's not letting anybody leave this castle. It's like this woman is the only person, she and her handful of dudes were going to go out there and literally they must have assumed they were going to die. She knew they were for sure they were going to die. Like, and it's all part of the plan.
yeah,
And like you said, the whole thing with the seppuku from Toranaga's right hand man, like all of those things,
Hiramatsu, dude, that uh
Matsu,
that episode.
all of that shit just playing just like right. It all falls in right. When you talk about things that get tied up perfectly, like and obviously like the show's a limited series, they're going to do a much better version of that than a show that could quote unquote maybe or maybe not get a third season.
Hmm.
And like, so I felt like for me, this show was in perfect agreement with itself. Like, there was nothing that was left like hanging out in the open that didn't make sense or was like, why was that like, it all worked for me like pretty perfect. Right?
And you even called it where you were like, "Oh, dude, I can tell now that I've seen 9 that like it's not gonna be some big battle. It's like he's gonna solve it through, he's gonna use his brain and like it's not gonna be
Diplomacy,
that.
right?
Yeah, and again kind of almost teasing the audience with like, all right, we're gonna show a bunch of armies on a battlefield, but everybody's just gonna ride out and we're gonna show some papers to each other. You're just like, all right, everybody go home. Even
But
though,
like,
of course, thousands of people in actual historical fact, thousands of people die after that, like, in that battle. They still do
yeah,
fight after that.
well, no, but I didn't know that. What I was gonna say is like I think like, when you're watching as a viewer and you're just trying to be entertained, you're like, oh, the highest victory is, you fight might with might, and then like, cool, you come out as the victor, whatever. It's like, is not like that's kind of the point of the show is like, is not the literally the highest level of victory, the fact that you could show up to a place and not have to kill anyone and still take over,
Yeah,
isn't that literally the highest form of power? Isn't it like,
absolutely. So again, I haven't. I want if any of our listeners want to actually email me, and I'm going to do my own research as well, but I want like a solid, like good Japanese history book, like overview. You know what I mean? I want just like give me a solid like chapter that gives me the ins and outs. It's more in depth than Wikipedia, but not like, I don't want to have to get lost in a whole specific period, but like I'd like to get more educated. Anyways, as I understand it, Tokugawa, who is like the loose basis for Toranaga, um, similar situation happens where I believe like he gets the dude has to ride without banners, the person who is opposing him. But they do still like there is a battle still like with multiple armies clashing on different sides. And then even after he takes power as shogun for only a couple years, he's still fighting. There are still a lot of people who are loyal to the former uh Taiko heir, like that whole structure and everything, who are still opposing his rule for about like 15 more years and shit before everything gets like completely settled. But then they do have a relative, like, you know, no internal civil wars for quite a while after that, like about 200 years or so. So it worked. It worked eventually for a
yeah,
while.
well,
But he only served as shogun. The actual like Tokugawa only served as shogun for like 2 to 3 years after all of these machinations and shit to get to this point. It all of years and years of work essentially only served for like 2 3 years, but set the country kind of on a particular path for the Edo period and all sorts of shit that came from that. Anyways, some good and some bad. That's the other thing. That's the thing I ultimately love about Toranaga being reframed because again, the from what I understand of the limited series, the one they did back in the 80s, it obviously was very much like John Blackthorne, fish out of water, and very much like from his perspective. And I think I even told you like they don't subtitle the Japanese actors. Like it is trying to give you the fish out of water experience of like you're trying to figure out what are they saying to him? And like eventually some things get directly translated through the Mariko character, but there are no subtitles from what I understand. I kind of want to go back and watch like maybe the first episode and the last. But I think it's only 3 parts. I don't know. It's like
well,
six
but
hours.
it's tough because it's like speaking of another show where everything that's good about it is the Japanese actors and not the English actor or whatever he is. Like by the way, I softened on him by
Oh
the end
yeah,
of
yeah, yeah. Wait, sorry. We gotta dial things back. We called him Bobo Tom Hardy. I want to be a little bit kinder
it.
to Cosmo Jarvis. Because again, yeah, throughout the season,
He
dude,
grew up.
just a charming presence where I was just like, dude, I just like this dude's vibe, like the performance and everything. I was like,
He's
and
kind of nailing what he's supposed to be doing. He's
yeah,
nailing it. Yeah, he's
yeah,
kind of
and
yeah.
it never. I don't know, dude. The scenes with him and Mariko, there were some moments that like really, really hit it for me, and they brought it home in the end. The scene with him and Fuji in the boat, like her letting go of her husband and the kid, who we see,
Loved
in the
it.
first episode, and him letting go of the cross, which to me, the reveal that the whole like old man vision of him with his grandchildren was literally like a dream of a dream sort of thing, where it's like, this is a possible future for you, but not literally like man out of time sort of shit. It was just like, oh, he had that in the vision, but he let the cross go. So I was like, oh, okay, that was a dream sequence. It was a very interesting choice for a
Okay.
finale,
No,
but
so I was
yeah.
okay, so that one was kind of hanging me up, and I'm okay, so that makes sense now that you say it that way. And I don't know why I didn't that didn't
So
occur.
they cut so when they do it twice, they show you they kind of open with that, and dude, I was like, dude, bold choice. I was like, this is fucking weird. I was like, I don't know if this works. What are we
I
doing
yeah,
here?
same, yeah.
But then when they cut back to it again, they do this transition out of it, and it's him waking up after the explosion from the previous evening, like him being knocked out or whatever. And it's him coming to several days later. They tell him like Mariko's already been buried, blah blah blah. And but it's like he's having that old man version of him, and it flashes into him waking up. And that's when I first was like, oh, maybe it's just like a weird dream vision thing or whatever. And then the confirmation of it to me was when he lets the cross go, because he has that cross in the vision, but he lets it go in the lake there. And presumably he didn't swim down, and or maybe he dredged it out when they pulled out the boat. But I took it to mean basically like, you know, I don't know, maybe as an
It's
echo of like
possible,
what
it's
the
possible futures, but it doesn't
possible
actually.
future, but all the Tycho in, I think it's in episode 2 when we get the flashback to him dying, and there's the
Mhm.
whole he's talking to Toranaga, and he's like, this life is so strange, just, a dream of a dream. And I was just like, oh, I just took it as kind of like that. He's on the edge of life and death, kind of, and also like not physically, but maybe more spiritually or metaphorically, where he's kind of like, okay, what do I have left? And over the course of this episode, it's like he doesn't have the ship anymore. He doesn't have Mariko. He doesn't really have, with her removed, what connection does he have to Fujisama, to Toranaga on a like even a conversational level, to Yabushige, to any of these people? And he's like grasping at meaning, and he does the whole thing where it's like, oh, you've been punishing these people in the village, let me sacrifice myself, like all of that. And it's like it's so clearly just like, dude, you are like you're at sea right now, like you are trying to find, you want your death to have some meaning, which all, you've almost come full circle. It's like you started out the whole season where it was just like I couldn't imagine like, oh, this dude was about to take his life, like what the hell. uh where he's now on the other side of it, like literally kind of seeing the, oh, I want my death to mean something. I feel like it should have happened by now almost. And like, oh, there's
Speaking
nothing
of a sh
left for me to fight for. Like, what can I grasp onto that would be worth me killing myself over because I have nothing to live for? And then ultimately realizing it's like, oh, I have like fully crossed over. I do kind of belong here in a weird way. I've been accepted. I get this culture on a certain level. I think I could be here for a while. Um, I thought
speaking
that
of
that all really
shows with
worked for me. That worked for me.
speaking of shows with stories and themes and things like that, the thing that always that I always found myself thinking about whenever I'd watch a show, and if I thought about it outside of the time where I was watching it, which I think is probably a marker of a good television show or
Yes,
entertainment event and book or whatever,
certainly.
what whole we live and we die thing. And
Hmm.
then I love how they carry that throughout the entire show, and basically they try to capture whatever the medieval version of Japan's idea of what life and death were like. It's like, yeah, listen, we get so caught up in, like we could get so caught up in the fact that like we're alive. How do we like make this last as long as possible? Or there's another way to look at this is like, this is like a short period of time. It will pass quickly. And it's like, how do you do it to the best of your ability? And then when you got to go out, how do you go out on your own terms and then think about like what you're leaving behind? That that
Yeah.
whole that whole thing, how that just kind of like goes throughout the show, and they keep bringing it up in like subtle ways and big ways. I just so fucking good.
Dude, and
I love
literally
that.
what you're doing right there, like the ebbs and flows of everything, it's like that is very much like the rhythm of the show. It never had, it just kind of flowed. It never got bogged down in like a particular episode structure or like, oh, I know what to expect, you know, now or then. Uh I was just thoroughly impressed by it. And like you said, as far as sticking with you, where I was like, dude, I was thinking about this show like in the days in between every new episode, where I was just like, can't wait to watch it, can't wait to see where everything goes. Specifically, like I said, I avoided everything. I have not read the book, which I've heard as an adaptation, they did a lot to change things up. So I think you should definitely check it out. I don't think it'll be one of those where it's like, oh, I feel like I'm just like, going through a lot of the same beats. I think it is very faithful, but I think it's a lot of perspective stuff from what I've heard. From the podcasts I've been listening to, it's like it's just kind of this reframing of like, okay, like you could approach it as like Blackthorn is our central figure, or you could more than anything, it's not even like shifting it to like, oh, now Toranaga's the focus. To me, it was just like, let's just fucking like widen the aperture. And everybody, it was like maybe the best ensemble I can think of since something like Succession, where I'm just like,
Yeah.
everybody's firing on all cylinders, contributing to the whole. Like everybody's bouncing off of each other in interesting ways. Uh, yeah, just uh, just fucking top notch shit, dude. The best
Yes.
TV I've seen this year so far, personally. That's my number one. We do have another season of The Bear on the horizon, so I'm not gonna say that nothing will be able to top it, but but for right now, Shogun, something very, very special.
Just as a side, yeah, I absolutely love Shogun.
Dude, we
I
also
think,
I do we just need to say it out loud because I don't we shouted out a lot of people. Uh Anna Sawai as Mariko.
oh, bro.
Give her all the Emmys, like, give her
She's the
multiple
hero of the
Emmys.
show. She's easily the hero of the show. I mean,
Yes, and
you
again, somebody
easily,
working in multiple languages, uh,
adeptly.
and just crushing it. Just absolutely crushing it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Like that's another way the show subverts your fucking expectations is you're like, Blackthorn's the hero. And you're like, no, Morinaga's the hero.
yeah,
No.
no,
It's like, oh, wait, this whole time it's been Mariko.
yeah,
Fucking sweet. It's just, so,
and dude, my dude Yabashige. Till the bitter end, dude. I even after he betrayed like all of my favorite characters,
the
I'm still
way
sitting
he
there going like
commits seppuku, dude,
this charming motherfucker.
the physical way that he commits seppuku is the fucking best in the show. He's got his feet dangling over the side of the ledge, and he just kind of gives the fuck it stab to
He just goes,
himself.
"Ugh." Yes.
But it's like it's so abrupt. Like they're in the middle of the conversation, he literally just goes, "Nah, fuck it."
Yeah.
Like, dude, that to me, the whole thing is so good, so good.
Dude, yes, the actor Totonobu Asano, my singularly speak I again, Hiroyuki Sanada is doing like god tier level work in this show. And Anna Sawai, like I said, give her all the Emmys. But Totonobu Asano as Yabashige, my favorite performance of the year, personally. Just
It's like,
absolute, just everything I want in a character.
how is this despicable person so? You know what I mean? It's one of those. It's like, how am I rooting for this motherfucker? He's a piece of shit, and
I
he's my
was,
favorite character.
I know, dude. I was trying to find like the American counterpart to tie him to, and I don't even think I figured it out. I'm like, what is the American actor equivalent of what he does? But
Saul
it's
Good. I
so
would say Saul
perfect, man.
Goodman, but he's too good. Saul Goodman's too much of a good
There
person.
is definitely some Odenkirk energy in there. I could see that. I could
Because
see that.
it's like self-serving, like honest self-serving behavior, where it's like there's this level of listen, I know I'm a bastard, but like it makes sense why I'm a bastard, right? Like,
Absolutely. Yeah. Just great show. Great time talking with you about it as well.
yeah.
What else have you been watching? I know you started Fallout.
Started Fallout. It's
How
I like it so far. I do like it so far. I think I really liked the first episode. And then as I've gone on, I guess I've found it slightly less interesting the further I go.
it's definitely a we were talking about plot versus story earlier. It's definitely a plot over story show, like 100%. Uh, but very very entertaining, and I will just say I constantly was just kinda like, "Is it gonna have another gear?" Basically, the whole time I was binging it, where I was like, "Is it gonna get me to care or, like, really invest in it as a show beyond just like, oh, this is entertaining, this is a cool adaptation." Um, And it did, man. By the time I got to the end, I was like, dude, totally pumped for season two. Um,
It's fun.
invested
Don't
on
get
the
me wrong.
level of like the boys or something where I'm just like, I like these characters, you know, I have a certain level of emotional investment in them, but also like, do I need to have my brain fully like booted up and turned on watching this show? No. Not like the sympathizer, for instance, where I'm like, I feel like I need I need the headgear from Clockwork Orange to like make sure I'm catching like all the edges of the frame and making sure I'm getting everything that's going
Yeah,
on.
yeah. Another reason why I'm waiting to binge that one at the very
While
end
there's
of the.
also like 3 to 4 languages being spoken at any given time, and they're cross-cutting between like 2 different time periods and shit. Uh, yeah. So I binged Fallout. I definitely think you should finish it. I think it's
I
worth
don't
the
not listen.
yeah,
Let me rephrase. Like I don't not enjoy it, but I feel about it the way that you just said, kind of like where I don't feel like I need to invest a lot of attention into it, and I can still enjoy it well enough. It's like something maybe you throw on at the end of the day, and it's like doesn't draw a lot from you mentally speaking, but maybe that's exactly what you're looking for, right? And it's fun.
absolutely. And you said
Well,
you don't really have a relationship with the games at all.
not really. And I remember I liked Purnell. Is Ellie Purnell? What's her name?
Yeah, yeah.
From
Yellow
Yellow
Jackets.
Jackets.
Hmm.
From Yellow Jackets.
She
And
was
I
definitely
yeah.
one of the highlights of season one for sure.
Yeah, and she's really good. She's really good. The dude from the or whatever the night shit, he's really good. I think he's pretty good. He's not as good as she is.
Yeah, I was gonna say Maximus is definitely some as far as characters growing on you was somebody who I was like, I don't know if that performance or that character is working for me for like a couple episodes. Completely turned a corner for me. Yeah,
My only so and I don't, and this isn't really an issue because I'll watch fucking Baby Billy do anything. But Walton Goggins in the first episode, the beginning of the first episode where he's with his daughter and he's just playing a normal dude, really fucking good. And then
as the ghoul
him
almost
as
feels
the
like a
ghoul,
completely different character.
yeah, it's like a different character. It's like fucking Baby Billy, but in ghoul outfit, which is, don't get me wrong, fucking a great time.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So much fun. That I just wish that he would just be whatever he was at the beginning of that show with just maybe added on a little bit of I don't care at all. I don't know. Anyway, that's just a
yeah.
personal nitpick, but it's nitpicky. It's still
I
good.
think it's wanting you to be like, how did we get from here to there? Like what, what is 200 years of like, you know, getting hardened in the wasteland gonna do to a guy? I will say you get more of the flashbacks. You get more of him in that prior mode
Okay, good.
as the season goes along. There's a lot of like parallel, you know, building up the backstory as we reveal what happened to lead to everything. And again, going to be very interesting because you're not as familiar with the games. I feel like for me and Barham, we're like, dude, I can't believe they pulled this off. Like, holy shit. That's why I'm like super high on the show, while also
Yeah.
acknowledging that it's not maybe as doesn't have nearly as much depth as maybe I would like from most of my like TV programming these days, but also acknowledging that like I like variety in my diet and I like to have some stuff that's just like, dude, that's just a fucking fun show. The
This is
vibes are off
candy.
the charts. Like, yeah, this
Candy.
is
Yeah.
fucking candy, 100%. Uh and it's scratching that itch. It was a
Yeah.
great binge, a great thing to drop like right before the summer and you know, the cynical side of me that's just like, dude, all of this shit is just fucking advertising for for IP. What am I doing right now, dude? I have reinstalled 2 separate Fallout games to my PlayStation 4 in the last in the
Yeah. Yeah.
last
Yeah.
week. So yeah, it did its job. It got me reinvested in the franchise and it got me, ready to watch season two whenever they drop it. So there you
I'm
go.
gonna it. I liked it. Sam also, we started it separately as one of those things where I was like, oh, I'm gonna watch this because she's never gonna watch this, and I
Yeah.
started watching it, and I was like, yeah, this is good.
How does she do with like over the top gore and violence when when tonally it's kind of like, hey, this is crazy, when that's the approach to it. Like, is that more palatable than say something
Oh,
where it's like, this is fucking dark and heavy as shit,
yeah, no, no, no. I think Dark and Heavy shit would go okay with her as long as it was. interesting. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like that's like the major criteria for any show we watch together is like it's just got to be interesting. Nothing is better than the bear to her. That's her
Oh,
favorite
hell
thing.
yeah.
And
We're
she just yeah, like period. And well, when's the next season? That's usually what.
You're like, oh, it's
But
coming. It's coming.
yeah, no, because what ended up happening was I told her I was like, well, I started watching the show on my own because I was like, I don't think this would interest you at all. But I was like, on second thought, like maybe take a look. And started watching Fall, and she's like, oh no, I like enjoy this. This is good.
Yeah.
And so you never know. I mean, I thought she was gonna be like, ah, not for me, but
Dude,
she
hell
liked
yeah.
it.
Is
So
she uh is she a Mad Max fan?
I don't think we've seen it yet. So before the new one comes out, we're
I
gonna
was gonna
watch.
say you guys should definitely. I think they're all on Max right now. I think the whole collection is on there.
I'm
Uh,
gonna watch
but yeah, I was just
because
immediately I was like, dude, if she's never seen the Mad Max franchise, like you got to go through all those before
she's
Furiosa
just
drops in
the
like
way
two
I've
or 3 weeks.
always like because I don't know like what she did or didn't watch in Mexico. Like there's certainly a shit ton of overlap in terms of entertainment.
Why
Uh,
I also asked that because I know that specifically Road Warrior is huge in Mexico. So
oh,
she may be like, oh yeah, I know Mad Max. That's why I was just like, oh yeah.
so what I've done with John Wick, Mission Impossible, anyway, all those franchises or whatever, I sit her down, and then also this is for me too. Before the next one comes out, we'll binge all of them, and then we'll go to the theater and we'll watch the new one. And it's funny because like in my like I just assumed I was like, she's not gonna really be into this. Fucking Mission Impossible, she was just I think she was more excited than I was. And then John Wick, she certainly was more excited than I was.
Uh-huh.
so like there's like there's definitely some overlap there. The the thing with the barrel, I was gonna say like you talk about like TV where there's just like there's nothing that's compare like they're like this is fucking this is as good as it gets. This is
Oh,
it doesn't get
absolutely.
better.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever talked to you about this, but for me, it was the bear in season one. There's a lot of great moments in that show, period. But like they're incredible. For me, the one that like is the tip top is the one where he finally gets the letter from his brother at the end of season one, and it just says, "I love you, dude. Let it rip, dude." Fucking floored, man.
Oh
Like
yeah.
I was fucked up. I was like fucked up for like 30 minutes after that.
Absolutely. That I mean, the show was already on like cloud nine, and then that final episode was when I was just like, no, dude, this is an instant classic all time. Where I was like, I can't believe they did to the point where I was like, when they announced a season two, I was like, they better not fuck this up. I was like, literally one of the stone cold like best seasons of television I've ever seen. Don't fuck this up. And then they made one that was even better, and I
Even
was
better
like,
somehow.
and then
Somehow you
they are shooting three and four simultaneously because the cast and crew is so in demand for other shit that they were like, we got to do this right now. So we are guaranteed three later this year, and then part of me secretly hopes they do the Atlanta thing, and they're like, oh yeah, we're just gonna drop season four like at the holidays. They're just gonna be like,
awesome.
hey, Christmas present, boom. That would be very cool.
Dude,
So
Oliver
we
Platt
got
is the
that to
uncle.
look
Dude,
forward
there's so
to,
many fucking amazing things about that show. I got it. Love so
dude.
much.
And like after season two, just like the deepest bench of supporting characters that they can go back to anytime they want in a flashback episode. Like
Can you
anytime they
remind me
want
the
to, they could just bring everybody back.
can you remind me the name of so by the way, his love interest, she's fantastic. I can't even like half the time I can't place some of these people, but the guy from Girls, the heroin addict from Girls who's dating Marnie, what's the
Uh,
actor's name?
oh, Eben Moss Backrack. Yeah.
He's fucking I fucking love that
Yeah,
guy so much.
did you ever get to Andor? Did we talk about Andor?
Oh, dude, Andor is one of my favorite
Okay,
shows.
yes. I was gonna say,
Five
dude, him on
years.
that as well. I'm just like, dude, he's one of my guys right now.
He's
Uh
just fucking rock solid and everything. I
yeah,
mean, Oliver Platt's amazing, dude. Anyway, I'll
absolutely killing
stop
it.
that whole
No,
cast.
dude, you're all good. But
Yeah.
yeah, TV wise, I'm watching The Sympathizer. I want to get to Ripley, the new Netflix adaptation from Steve Zalian. Have you checked it out?
Watched I watched the first episode and I'm not against it. It's like it's not like I'm not like I guess I just maybe I'm not interested in the story that much. Like I know what it's about, right? I know what it's about.
It's
I saw
pretty,
the movie.
yeah, that's where I'm coming from, where I'm just like, but here's the thing. I don't, and maybe it's a movie that's overdue for a rewatch. I've always like, I like Ripley fine enough, but I know for some people they're like, nah, dude, best movie of the 90s. And I'm just like, wait, what? Like, no, there are these people who are like, no, that movie is a masterpiece. And I've never been in that camp. And so, but that's what I'm saying is for me, Talented Mr. Ripley is not like a sacred cow by any means. So
Bit of a downer.
a show, a show that's like maybe taking a slightly different approach or like maybe sticking more to the book is intriguing to me. The only, again, the main attractions though, whereas I was like, dude, Andrew Scott and then Steve Zalian, who last TV thing was fucking the night of, and I'm like, I love all of the parties involved here. My The least interesting bit to me is the fact that we're doing Ripley again, but you know, but I hear great things, specifically uh The Watch, which I think you've dipped into,
Hmm.
but Chris and Andy were talking and they're like I think it's episode 3 or 4, they were just like this is one of the like standalone like best hours of TV of the last decade kind of thing. And I was just
Yeah,
like, dude,
I'll go back.
okay,
I'll go back.
I guess I gotta watch it. So that's kind of next on my list.
After episode
Uh
one, just not it didn't I didn't hook me, I'll say that
yeah.
much.
Uh do you have Apple TV?
Yeah.
Did you check out Sugar with Colin Farrell?
No, I was looking at it because Private Detective sounded cool. Colin Farrell sounded great, but dude, I'm gonna say
I've heard
if I
really
watch
mixed things about that
if I
as
watch
well.
anything if I watch anything on Apple TV, it's gonna be Masters of the Air. It's gonna be the first thing I watch.
Yeah,
Everyone,
I haven't touched anything on Apple.
so I got in trouble in college. I went to so alter school, but my punishment for getting on this alcohol probation thing was I had to read Masters of the Air, and you kind of like the way the book is laid out. At least it from start to finish is it's like the founding of the Eighth Air Force more or less during World War II, and basically they were launching missions at night out of Great Britain is how the whole thing starts, and then
Hmm.
the British was that the British would do the day missions, and anyway, so what's crazy about this is like it's so be what my job knowing what I know about what they were doing, it's just absolutely fucking bananas what they were doing. Like they were flying unpressurized up to like 26 plus thousand feet, which is like above Everest, and they would wear these insulated gloves and jackets, and then they would basically carpet bomb these cities and wherever in Europe, in Germany or
Hmm.
whatever, try to basically destroy their production. Anyway, the stories are incredible, and if you read the individual what the book basically was it was a collection of short stories about these people, but then also it would string the main theme of like the Eighth Air Force kind of through it.
Hmm.
And the stories are incredible. And there's people like, and I want to say it's Clark Gable, like Clark Gable. It's like a different era of human being. Also, World War II is kind of like a different type of war, right? Where like you can't not sign up and not feel bad about it kind of thing or guilty in some way. But there was
Right.
like pieces about I think it was Clark Gable or Elvis or whatever. I think it was Clark Gable. But he signs up and basically he goes on X amount of missions as like a tail gunner or something like that. And then basically the Germans put out like you will get 1 million francs or whatever the dollars equivalent is if you kill Clark Gable and stuff like
Hmm.
that. And so there's like all these things in the it's just a fucking crazy book, and it's all true. And the stories in it, there's like way crazier stories than that. And and that's what the show's about. And I was like, God, fucking help me. I don't know why I haven't watched this yet because I had to read the fucking book, and the book was incredible, and I remember being moved by it many, many times. But I guess I felt I looked at the Apple or I looked at the Rotten Tomatoes review, which I shouldn't have done because that doesn't fucking matter. Really should have looked at IMDb. But anyway, the
Metacritic, dude. Metacritic.
Metacritic or whatever. Yeah, and they're all kind of. It was like 80 something percent, and to me that was like I just assumed if it wasn't 99%, I was like I felt like it wouldn't have justified the book.
Yeah, you're like, if it's not universal praise across the board, if it's not Band of Brothers like three, then
Then
what are
why
we
am I
doing
watching?
here? Which again, the Pacific, as much as I enjoyed it and I thought it was well made, I thought was like a significant, like, 2 to 3 stars less
Really?
than Band of Brothers.
Oh, dude,
I don't think you can put those on the same, like,
let
that
me explain.
if we're
Let me
stacking them up on like the podium at the end of the event, like that they just
can I
Band of
explain?
Brothers
Can I
is on
explain
like a
why I
whole
think?
other tower somewhere.
Can I
God,
explain? Can I explain why I think that they are in the same? They're fucking locks. They're in lockstep,
go
but
for
for
it.
completely different. Like
Speak your truth.
so, they're capturing the perfect sentiment of the time, or at least so it seems, right? It's like that the European theater of war in North Africa and all that that was glorified as like whatever this form of war was. It was like all these heroes and all these things coming out of it, and then you have the Pacific theater. It's almost like not forgotten about, but it's like people are in the mud and whatever. It's just an awful situation.
Yeah.
It's just like a terrible top to bottom. And so therefore the two shows are very different things. Like we got one where it's like shows the European theater war, a lot of heroes, a lot of all the things that you expect Band of Brothers to be. That's what it is, and it's fucking amazing. One of the best episodes of anything I've ever seen in my entire life is the episode about the medic or
Hmm.
prior to the battle for whatever the one in the woods is, and he goes out to the church. It's just so good, dude. Nothing better than that. Then you get the Pacific, and to me, it's like just a more honest version of Band of Brothers, where it's like, hey, by the way, this is war. Everyone's dying, and people are depressed. Some people have committed suicide. Like it just, there's just so much. Like it's just the fucking
And
darkest.
I guess you think you would assume that I would basically have the same reaction you do, which is like I would prefer the one that's like, oh, this is more grounded, more realistic, like more war as hell, like, But I don't know what it was. I we briefly talked about it, I think last time we were hanging out at Colin's place, but I think it was like maybe when I was watching or whatever, and the sheer level of some of the darkness. I remember specifically talking about the Rami Malek like throwing pebbles into the top of like a dude's skull or something, and I've referenced it to Gavin on this podcast before as well. Uh, but yeah, I think there was fundamentally some stuff in it that I was just like, yeah, this is too much, dude. And I where it's just like I have not gone back to it since then. That was like college, I guess. Whereas Band of Brothers, I feel like I watch like every couple of years.
Yeah, because you can go watch Band of Brothers and walk away from it and not feel horrible.
Right.
And and like if you watch the Pacific, you're gonna be like, this is absolutely compelling. And then when you walk away from it, you're gonna be like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
But no,
specifically,
oh god.
do you remember the very end of the Pacific where there's the one guy he's like this nice kid and he's like hardened by war and basically it's all true story, obviously. And he goes back home and he becomes a college professor. Do you remember that
Mhm.
whole bit?
Mhm.
I don't know why the part where he goes home and can't cope to me is like one of the fucking hardest parts to watch about that show.
Oh, dude, I that stuff
It's
always hits for me. It's the Hurt Locker scene where he's in the fucking grocery store and he doesn't know what to do with himself. I'm just like, dude,
yeah,
this is the saddest shit I've ever seen in my fucking life. This guy is
yeah.
like literally like he's in hell right now. And it's like this is where most of us just like spend our day-to-day lives. But for him, he's like, this is fucking terrible. Meanwhile,
You know what
everything
it's like
we've
to feel
seen
alive.
mean
Yeah.
exactly. Meanwhile, everything we've seen him go through for the previous 2 hours is we're like, I would never fucking that is what a fuck situation is that? Yeah. That's a genius scene. But yeah, no, anytime you can articulate that, but also not beat you over the head with it when you can do it like visually or subtly, I'm always just like, dude, that that'll hit
And that
every
was that scene
time.
in the Pacific, and I just remember like,
Yeah.
dude, it's been like 5 or 6 years since I've watched that show, and I still think
I need
about the scene. It's
Maybe I
like,
need to go back, dude. And but yeah, dude, Masters of the Air, that seems again. if you, an Air Force Academy graduate who's read the book, still has not watched the show, and it's been out for like 4 months, I think that tells you everything you need to know about basically how it has been received. Where it's just like, it was this big, I feel like it's every Apple project. When I hear about it, it's like, dude, I can't believe they're making that. And like, that they have movie stars in it and like they spent a lot of money. And then I'm like, yeah, I'll probably never watch it because it's on
Well, here's the
Apple.
no,
And
no,
it's
I'm
just
gonna
it's like this huge barrier to entry, dude. I don't know
no,
what it
it's
is. They're
yeah,
like,
yeah, no, it is. You're right. No, you're 100% right. And it's not the show, it's not the material, it's the Apple TV bullshit
it's
because
the
they don't have enough.
fucking network, dude. Yeah.
Yeah, and so, but I'll say this. So I went out when I went out to Jacksonville for that surgery I was just telling you about with my dad.
Yeah.
Um, Eileen asked me because they wanted Eileen out there being the nurse, and she was going to help him kind of get back to a good spot. He and my uncle John or whatever. But anyway, so um, she stopped. I mean, she was like, "Hey, have you seen Masters of the Air yet?"
Hmm.
Because I've been thinking about it. And I was like, "Fuck." It's like, "No, I haven't seen it yet. I've read the book, whatever." And she says, she's like, "It's great. You should watch it." And I was
Uh-huh.
like, "Fuck." And okay, all right, fine, fuck, I'm gonna watch it. So, she said it was great, and I don't even think she's seen either Band of Brothers. And
Word.
so, I'm gonna check it out.
I
You should
think
check it out.
that I think that's probably the thing is I think removed from the comparison to the two prior series, it's probably a really, really good show. But probably it does pale in comparison to both of those, where it's just like if we're holding it up to those as the standard, maybe it leaves a little something to be desired. But yeah, I'm sure it's a good dude. The pedigree alone, I'm like, I'm sure it is very well made and well executed. Uh, I will get to it before the year is over. At some point, I'm gonna reactivate my Apple. I'm gonna catch up on everything. I'm gonna finally watch Ted Lasso and appease my whole
Fuck Ted
family.
Lasso. You watch Blackbird, dude. You watch Blackbird. Fuck Ted Lasso.
You're not
Blackbird.
allowed to say that on this show, Gavin and Gavin, Becky, my mom, my dad, everybody's gonna come for you. If you start talking shit about Ted Lasso.
Oh well, I listen. Ted Lasso's fine. Whatever. I never watched it. Blackbird is
Neither have I,
fan fucking
brother.
good. So good.
Dude,
I think it's
I'll
Black.
get back on it at some point. Yeah, no, it is Blackbird. And Gavin speaks very highly of that one as well. Okay, some movie recommendations. I know you can't make it out to the theater for everything, but if you can see one thing in the next like month, I'm gonna vote for Challengers, dude.
Really?
That
Over
is
Civil
my
War?
well, you already saw Civil War. I'm
Oh, I
talking to
thought you were
you.
talking like to people, human beings in general.
Well,
So, okay.
yeah, I guess this is a good time because we haven't recorded in a while. Civil War was fantastic. We both loved it. We don't have to get into a whole Civil War thing right now, but that would be our collective, like, number one recommend. My recommendation to you, who I know, you have to pick and choose. I do think Challengers is worth your time in the theater because it's fucking electric, dude. It's like the best tennis I've ever seen in a movie. Uh, Banger score. Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. It's just like straight Italian house music for like 2 hours straight. It was amazing. And dude, yeah, the like just three dope performances, really interesting love triangle. I don't want to spoil anything about it, but I I had an absolute blast. I did not expect to come out of that movie going like, that is my second favorite movie of the year, right behind Civil War. Civil War is my number one. I know that sounds insane. I put
Yeah,
this just a
I love
slight
Civil War.
I
It's
put
kind of
this
tough for me.
no, 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 but I put this just this is gonna sound crazy. I put this just a slight notch above Dune Part Two.
No, 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 no,
As a
no, no,
theatrical
sir. No,
experience, I know that
sir.
sounds insane. Evan, there was two or three moments in this movie where I thought I was gonna levitate out of my chair. The same sort of feeling of exhilaration that I felt during Dune 2, but from Challengers. I did not expect it, dude. I didn't
Dude,
expect it.
my wife stood up in the middle of Dune 2. Stood up.
Dude, I I cannot remember the last time this happened. I react There was a shot that was staged in such a way, and I was so into the movie that I physically reacted as if I thought something was coming out of the screen because of the way something was shot. There's a like return volley. It's the first time he does it. You'll know it when you see it. But he has the ball like whiz right past the lens in a way that I've never quite seen before. I literally did this. Like I thought I was playing tennis and I was reacting to the ball. Dude, on that level alone, again, there is a solid like 30 minutes of the best tennis you've ever seen in a movie ever. The way he chose to shoot it, I was just like, dude, I did not know those angles existed. I've never seen that in a fucking movie before.
All right. I mean, I was excited.
Knocked me out, dude. And then the rest of it is just like, dude, I love fucking I love a juicy drama, dude. I love, people doing bad shit to each other and you sitting there going like, "Ah, ah." I love it. I love it, dude. It was
Well,
great.
I don't. I think
Exhilarating.
I'm
Electric.
gonna. We're gonna.
Huge recommend.
Yeah, we're gonna go see it. Obviously, I'm excited. I've been excited, but man, I mean, fucking starting off the year with Dune Part Two and
Dude,
Civil War,
Dune,
just
Civil War.
man.
Um, I had a great time at Sasquatch Sunset recently.
Oh, wow.
Boy Kills World was a totally fun time. You could probably wait till streaming. Fun action movie though. Uh, yeah, dude, it's been a good like so
Been
far
pretty good.
a pretty
Oh, First
good.
Omen. You saw First Omen
The
as well.
first Omen I thoroughly enjoyed,
Can't
dude.
wait.
Kind of
Uh,
came out of nowhere. Nice
Late Night with the
surprise.
Devil. I've been wanting to watch.
So do you have Shudder or no?
I don't. I'm just gonna rent it. I've been waiting
Okay.
for a night where I can sit down with Sam and watch Late Night with the
Yeah, I
Devil.
was gonna say just rent it. Or if you basically the price of a rental would be you could get Shudder for a month and just watch it for free if you wanted to. But anyways, huge recommend on that as well. It is now available streaming. And
First Omen, I want to see, dude. I'm a Servant fan, and I don't. You've seen it, right? You've seen it.
I have not another Apple TV show that
Oh
I have
shit.
not had the pleasure.
No, no, no. I meant First Omen. You watched First Omen,
I've
right?
seen First Omen. Yes, I haven't
The
seen
girl
Servant.
from Servant. I found out the girl from Servant is on it,
Nell
or is
Tiger
in it. She's
Free,
a
and she
star.
is
Yeah.
she's also in Too Old to Die Young, the Nicholas Winding Refn series. Yeah.
Yeah, she's
Um,
Servant.
and then it is directed by Arkasha Stevenson, who worked on Servant, and also
I did
uh,
not know she worked in Servant.
she worked on Servant, Channel Zero, and most importantly for me, did you ever watch Brand New Cherry Flavor on Netflix?
No.
Very weird show, only ran for one season. It's one of those where it's like the algorithm finally made something just for me, but it's Cronenberg and Lynch like put in a blender. Uh, I loved it. Clearly, no one else did. But Rosa Salazar, she was in Alita: Battle Angel.
Mhm.
She was Alita. She's been in some other shows as well. She's the lead. Catherine Keener is in it. Uh, Very weird, fucked up like LA crime, body horror sort of show. Anyways, the first episode and the tone is set by Arkasha Stevenson, who directs The First Omen. So I didn't know that all these people were attached. I had been seeing trailers for it, and then it like I kind of like, oh, maybe I need to look at this. And then I was like, I'll take a chance on it, and I'm so glad I did, dude. One of one of my favorite horror movies in recent memory. Yeah.
Everyone's been saying that, man. Everyone's been saying how fucking good it is, and like everyone's been saying the same thing. It's like I thought this was gonna be shit. It was really not
And
shit. It
it
was.
yeah, and it's not even like, oh, I think you should go in with lowered expectations, you'll enjoy it more. I think it is legitimately like there are images and sequences in it that I'm like, dude, this is this is on par with like some of the best shit I've seen in the last couple of
Hmm.
years.
I've been
Yeah,
waiting for that on streaming because I can't wait.
I think it is very, very soon. I also saw that Monkey Man is now rentable, or maybe I mean it might
Did
be like an expensive rental,
you watch
but
it?
yes, that is a solid thumbs up for me and a very enthusiastic double thumbs up from Mr. Sunshine Mayfield. He I think I think now it's probably his number two, but it was his number one for a bit. He really went hard for that one.
I'll watch him do just about anything. So,
Yeah,
you
dude.
know,
No, as far as a directorial debut, super impressive. And yeah, I really like Dev Patel more and more in
Did you
everything I
ever
see him
watch
in.
and this is I'm gonna continue making a plug for this show because I think you'll probably never watch it. I'll just continue trying. Did you ever see the show Modern Love on Prime? So I used to I subscribed to the where I had a subscription to the New York Times for a long time.
Oh, okay.
And
Now I just remember what this one is. Continue.
yeah, there's a section there. It's called Honor Love, and it's obviously it's written by people who are really good writers, but it's about something from their life, and it's love in some aspect. It could be between a family member, like non like love like we're thinking about here. It could be between like a father daughter. It could be between two people who are dating or married or whatever. Anyway, there's a
Hmm.
lot of different versions of it, and so what they do is it's like each series, and I think they only came out with like two, maybe three. I wish they'd come out with more, but they didn't because I love the New York Times thing. But the show itself is each episode's a story in and of itself. Like there's one, like for example, there's an episode. It's Minnie Driver. I think it's Minnie Driver, and she's or maybe it's somebody else. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I think it's Minnie Driver, and she's in Ireland, and it would make sense if it was Minnie Driver. And she has a car, and it's her late husband's car, and she's trying to sell it because she needs to sell it to get money for her family, daughter, or something like that.
Hmm.
Anyway, and it's her going through like trying to part with this vehicle, the death in her family. Like, but each episode's its own story, right? Like that's one story, but there's a story with remind me, Patel's his last name, right?
Yeah, Dev Patel.
Dev Patel, thank you. Dev Patel is in probably my one of my favorite episodes of the show. So if you watch nothing else, watch the Dev Patel episode. And he has a girlfriend, things go wrong, and I think he runs into Catherine Keener and have a good conversation. And I remember, and then anyway, just watch that one. If you watch nothing else,
Do you do you know who directed this episode
no idea.
and wrote it and directed a lot of episodes of this show?
No,
John Carney,
from
your dude from Once and
ah,
Begin Again
of
and
course. I love beginning again,
did
dude,
you
but love
see his most recent one? I didn't catch it.
I did
From
not
last year, Flora and Son.
know, but I'm going to now because you know I love beginning
I
again.
was
I've
gonna
seen begin
say, yeah.
6 times, dude. So,
Well,
but
it's an guess where it is, Evan.
fair.
Apple TV Plus. It was an Apple TV Plus exclusive movie, so that's why we haven't seen it. But yeah, Flora and Son.
Just do me a favor, watch the Dev Patel episode, nothing else. If you don't believe me,
I
the
will
Minnie
do that.
Driver episode's great, and it's I
Adding it
yeah.
to the list right now. Dude, hell yeah. This was a good time. I don't like TV's kind of, I don't know, up in the air for the next guy. I know there's stuff coming, obviously, but I don't know really what. I don't know what the next big thing is. Uh, but yeah, movie wise, um, shit. Pulling up my list here. Hold on. Oh, Fall Guy kicks off May. It's gonna be a good May. Excuse me.
This summer is going to be
It's
amazing.
gonna be a
Yeah,
good May. We got the Fall Guy kicking off May, and then
Quiet Place,
Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, which I hope is good. I have high hopes for. Um,
Quiet Place,
Quiet Place is coming. Is that
August,
in the
right?
fall or August? It's a ways away. Um, oh, I saw the TV Glow, which is probably my
Oh,
most
dude,
anticipated
yes,
um,
Sam.
for the rest of the year now that Civil War has come out.
Have you heard reviews on
And
it yet? Thing?
no, and I'm very interested to see how well it has festival reviews. It has an 87 on Metacritic currently based off of 16 reviews, but
Seems like the
it's
kind of movie that when we were in high school we would have fucking killed ourselves
so
over.
I have not um talked to you about this will be a great way to wrap out. Okay, because I don't are you gonna watch anything after we part ways here? You and Sam gonna go watch anything?
I mean, only if you suggest something and I can stay awake
Well,
for it.
okay, well, if she's already gone to bed, this is one of those where I'm almost like I highly recommend it as a solo experience. It is short. It's about an hour and 20 minutes. It's on HBO Max right now. It is called We're All Going to the World's Fair. Okay.
Yeah.
So I saw the TV Go is directed by Jane Schoenbrunn. Her first movie is the one I just mentioned. We're All Going to the World's Fair. I don't want to tell you like really anything about it. I just want you to watch it. Completely knocked me out, unlike anything I've seen before. You might love it, you might fucking hate it. You might be like, "Why'd you make me watch that?" Who knows? You might find it tedious, but it is the perfect like, dude, throw it on, dark house, just you and the TV at night, give it a shot sometime. Um, I absolutely fell in love with it last year. Rewatched it again like 2 or 3 weeks ago. Still hit for me. I'm so pumped for this one. And yes, to your point, it feels like a movie that, yes, when we were in high school, we would have been flipping shit for. I feel like she is making those sorts of movies for this current generation, which is a generation that I fundamentally do kind of like not fully get or understand, I think, on some levels. And it is a turnkey movie that got me into a lot of interesting subcultures and like just stuff that I kind of like tangentially knew about but hadn't really like dove into. But it's kind of centered around internet culture. All I will say is it's about kind of you know, a girl who spends a lot of time online who decides to take an internet challenge called the World's Fair Challenge. And I won't tell you what the
Oh, sorry,
challenge.
can somebody name it? We went to the World's Fair. I'm just
We're all going to the World's Fair.
all going short.
We're all going.
I'm
Uh,
gonna, well, I'm gonna do it.
I was gonna say, let me confirm that it is still streaming on HBO Max. 1 hour and 26 minutes. Uh, shit.
I'm in. I mean, if you say it's, yeah, I'm in.
Again, I consider it like alternative horror, if you will, where it's like it is not a horror movie in the traditional sense, but it like stuck with me in a deep and profound way. And but I don't even want to tell you like the things that it made me feel until after you've seen it. And I don't mean to overhype it. Fucking really interesting movie. Nothing, haven't really ever seen anything quite like it. Very pumped for what she does next, which is I saw the TV Glow. And if you saw the trailer and were excited, then I'm very interested to see what you think of this one. So,
Yeah, I mean, I saw the trailer, and of course, I was like, yeah,
and
I
it
mean,
and it
obviously,
it comes out in like a couple weeks. So maybe you check that one out, and then we can come back here and talk about both of those down the road. But for now, I think we should wrap it up. We've been going for almost 2 hours. But dude, thanks for doing this. Little Tokyo
yeah,
Vice, little Shogun. Uh, one good show, one great show, one one a masterpiece in my personal opinion. We will be back very soon in some capacity. I look forward to it. Thanks for joining me once again, Mr. Evan Twohig,
grab me, man.
for the ARK of E podcast. I have been Noah, and you've been listening to What We've Been Watching.